So I teach my kids kindness. If they were here right now and I said, what does mommy always say? They'd always say, be kind. Um, I always say, are you being kind to your sister? Are you being kind to your brother? Is that a kind thing to do? Were you kind at school? And I think that's really important. My dad really instilled that in my brother and I. Um, and my dad taught us, we treat the CEO like we treat the janitor. We just treat everyone exactly the same. It doesn't matter what you look like, who you are, how much money you have. It doesn't matter. You have to be kind.
One Quick Thing brings you easy, actionable ways to support your local community in these times where we need it the most. If you're feeling overwhelmed and don't know where to start, join us on this journey as we make meaningful connections and learn how to be better, more engaged members of our communities. Today, we're talking to Camilla Thompson, Black Maternal Health Coordinator for Black Lives Matter New Hampshire. She's also an abortion doula for the Reproductive Freedom Fund of New Hampshire and currently serves as their board president. Camilla has made it her mission to educate about the differences that Black birthing people may experience.
The Maternal Health Conference was such a success. So we
Mhm.
just want to make sure that we're keeping up with that momentum.
Yeah, I would actually love that's a perfect point to kind of dig into. Like, I would love to hear more about the Maternal Health Conference
Yeah.
that you guys hosted earlier this year.
So February 8th, we hosted New Hampshire's first ever Maternal Health Conference. It was amazing. I don't know what I was expecting, but it definitely succeeded all of my expectations. We had amazing keynote. We learned so much. She was amazing. But pretty much what we did is we had panelists come in and they submitted what kind of workshop they wanted to do, and then people were able to go to these workshops during the day, and all the feedback was just really amazing. And we did a panel at the end of the day, and then we had one man come and he spoke on Black fatherhood. So it was just really good. It was a good day. It was learning day. I learned a lot too. I actually learned that Black women are the face of gynecology. So something as simple as a speculum were used on slaves, and the curvature of the speculum is made from a slave's essentially vagina. They
Wow.
were inserted them, and they were the test subjects, and things like C-sections were done while these women were not pregnant. And they are the forefront of gynecology, and they were just like these test subjects. So these all started with Black women.
Right.
So that was really amazing to learn. And, they did these things without any pain medicine either, because there goes the whole thing of Black women don't feel pain, or we have a high pain tolerance. So I learned that. And that, I mean, even gives me chills now. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Can you talk a little bit more about some of the maternal health challenges, in New Hampshire in general, but also then specifically like how this significantly impacts the Black community? Like, we know the maternal mortality rate is much higher for
Yeah.
Black women. Can you tell us a little bit about that to maybe our listeners who aren't as familiar?
Yeah. So, statistics show that Black women are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth or have a pregnancy related complication than our white counterparts. I have said this before, but I don't think, like, you read these things, like, I know that these things are happening, but you don't really understand until it's happening to you. And I think that Black women in New Hampshire, I believe that Black women in New Hampshire, if you have birthed here, you have some type of story to tell, whether it's being not listened to by a doctor during your, prenatal checkups, or something as simple as overlooking, like, a blood cell count. And
Right.
like, we don't look pale very easily, right? I know somebody who sister had to advocate and was like, oh, my sister looks pale, like this is not her normal color. And I think one of her blood cell counts was really low during labor, and that was really traumatizing to her. I personally didn't get the right amount of pain meds during my 4th C-section, and even while my own partner was advocating for me in the OR, nothing happened. So it's just, those things are real. And sure, and like I said, I don't ever blame my hospital. I don't blame the nurses in there. I don't blame my OB. If I went to have a baby today, I was going right back to the same place that I've been going for the last almost 10 years. I do blame the anesthesiologist, because I'm sitting here advocating, saying that there's something wrong. Like, my doctor is on the other side of that thing. She can't say what's happening to me, but there was a doctor behind me who was supposed to be administering and wasn't happening. I do remember the beginning of my C-section, getting my spinal. I told the doctor that I was falling, and he was like, no, it just feels that way. And I was like, no, this is my fourth time around. Like, I know it doesn't feel like this.
Yeah.
And I actually fell into the nurse's arms
Oh gosh.
before the C-section started. I literally fell into her arms.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew it was going to be a shit show. It was at that
Wow.
moment that I remember I was on the C-section table, and my partner came in and he said to me, you know, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm scared. He goes, what do you mean you're scared? I was like, this is not going to go good. I just said, this is not going to go good. And so I think that I can't say New Hampshire is facing the same disparities that other inner cities do, because there's not a whole lot of us here, right? So I feel like if we went to like the inner city of Boston or Philadelphia, we'd have more women saying like, this is a problem, I'm not listened to, this, that, and the third. But I don't think New Hampshire is innocent either, right? I think that not all of our doctors are trained the same way, right? So that's kind of why I've begun my birth doula training, because I want to be able to bring back this information to our providers. I have a really great connection with some of these hospitals, and I love the family center where I deliver, and I have a really good relationship with the director. So I want to be able to bring these things back. And places like Exeter Hospital are really willing to change and to learn. And so as long as people are willing to listen, I'm willing to give information. So like a double-edged sword.
Man, I can't
Yeah.
imagine being doing what you do from an advocacy perspective,
Yeah.
and then being in the patient side and saying like, I know these shortcomings.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine like how scary that is.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I wasn't doing maternal health when I had my C-section with my son. But I definitely believe it sparked my advocacy and want to be doing this, because I know that C-section was bad. But I kind of kept it to myself for a while. And my dad, he said to me, he's like, Camilla, this is happening all over the world. Like, this is an epidemic. He was like, you have to say something. You have to speak up for you. And if you're not speaking up for you, you're speaking up for Ava. And if you're not speaking up for Ava, you're speaking up for the next Black woman that might walk through these doors. And he was like, even if you're not trying to get anything else, you just need to say something, which I did. And again, I would go back to the hospital. All of my children were born there. But it's like the learning curve, right? What we don't know, we can't learn from, right? So
Yeah.
right.
If we have somebody who's listening to this that is involved in, the medical system in any way, do you have any advice for like how they can be more conscious, shy of like there should be real trainings and things like that? But if somebody's listening to this and they're like, wow, I need to be more conscientious about other people's experiences.
Yeah, I think listening is always important. I love to say listen with your ears open and your mouth closed, which is a little aggressive, but I like if I'm thinking about a doctor who might be listening, if you have a person of color that comes in and sure, all of our bodies, our skeleton is made the same, right? But I might experience, I know that I do have a higher pain tolerance than most people. Do I think it's because I'm Black? No, I just think I have a higher pain tolerance than most people. And I know that my doctors know that, but I think that like if there was a doctor listening and a person of color came in, I think that listening to their experiences, getting their background and their family history, and I know that a lot of Black women, Black people in general, don't really trust the healthcare system for various reasons, right? Not being listened to, wrong diagnoses. I think like Black boys have a higher risk of being diagnosed with ADHD than our white counterparts. And they always attribute that to Black boys being mischievous in class. So then they diagnose them with ADHD, right? So it's things like that. So I feel like listening is really important, and like educating yourself, right? Because there are trainings now, but even though they're not trainings, there are things like this. And there's articles, right? So if everyone's saying it, it can't be wrong.
Yeah.
So
you talked a little bit about how you grew up in New Hampshire,
Yeah.
and I'm curious if you're comfortable talking a little bit
Yeah.
more about that experience growing up in such a predominantly white area, and maybe how you think about it now that you're a mom too in New Hampshire and raising a family here.
Yeah, it's so funny. So when I was in high school, I said to my dad, like, why do we live here? And obviously I knew we lived here because he worked here. He worked at Phillips Exeter. So I knew that we lived here because this was his job. But he said to me, it's a really great place to live, like to raise kids. Like it might be not good for like young adults and teenagers because there's not much to do, but like the school systems are great and it's a really safe place. So it's a great place to have you guys. And I feel that way now, like as a mom. Like I'm a little bit of a helicopter mom, but I don't fear that like my son's gonna get kidnapped while he's sitting out waiting for the bus, right? I feel comfortable that if they wanted to kick a ball in our yard, they're safe, right? But my experiences and what I believe my children are experiencing are not quite the same. Like the early 2000s and late 90s, they were definitely different. There were not as many Black people in New Hampshire. And now when I go into my son's class, there are Indian children, there are Chinese children, there are other Black children, there are biracial children, which was never a melting pot when I was here. I think the only people of color were me and my brother. And so I don't think that Marcus, who's my only one in public school, has experienced a lot of things. I do know in kindergarten, I got a phone call from the principal. Marcus had hit a little girl because the little girl said he couldn't play with her because the mom doesn't like brown people. And when the principal called me, who I love, I'm obsessed with her, she said, I'm not calling because Marcus is in trouble because he's not wrong. But like, I'm calling to tell you what happened. And I thought to myself, he's in kindergarten. This is really early to be having this conversation.
Yeah.
But we couldn't not address it, right? Because he hit some little girl. So we had to address the situation at hand. And I remember, I said to him, Marcus, some people might not like us because we're brown. And that's just kind of the history, like, whatever. But we can't hit people. And when things like that happen, you can tell them that they're not nice. You can tell a teacher. You can choose just not to play with them. You can always come home and tell mommy. But like, this is not the last time this is going to happen to you either. Like, this is just kind of the beginning. And he just said, okay to me. And then I cried and I said, I'm really sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
And he said, it's okay. And I said, it's not okay, but I'm really sorry that it happened to you. He had something happened. Oh, the George Floyd, incident that happened in May of 2020. Marcus was still, I think he was like in pre-K or something. And I was telling him that we were going to go to Portsmouth and we were going to walk with other people because we were protesting. And he was like, what are we protesting? And I was like telling him, like, this man, he was brown like us. And the police officers killed him. And it's a really big thing. And I think it's important for you guys to be there. And he quoted Daniel Tiger. He said, what was it? Like, we're all the same. So I think it was like, we're all different, but somehow we're all the same. Some song from Daniel Tiger.
In some ways we are different, but in so many ways we are the same.
And I stopped the car and I looked back and I said, you're right. And I think I told somebody that story and it got to WMUR. So then WMUR came and did a segment with me and Marcus because I thought to myself, oh, he just quoted this song from Daniel Tiger and he had no idea. I mean, he was 5. He just said it and we went on with our day. But like my other kids, Marcus is fairly light skinned. And, the color of, even with Black people, the color of your skin, some people think like, some people say the darker you are, like, I think historically the darker you are, the grosser you are. Like, that used to be a thing. But, like, I know, like, even with amongst Black people, some people say the lighter skinned people are nice, are prettier, or the darker. Like, it doesn't matter. But some people think differently. And so we always say, like, Marcus is light skinned. It's different. But, like, I have a son who's a gorgeous chocolatey color. And I always think to myself, when do I have to have the conversation with Noah? Like, when does this start? And then my daughter Ava, she's just 2, so she doesn't know. But what I'm really proud of her is that I was looking at or maybe it's what I've done. I was looking at a series of babies, little baby dolls. She wanted a new baby doll. I think we were on Google, and I was like, oh, what baby alive do you want? And she picked out the brown one. And I thought to myself, okay, so we're doing something right here because we only get her the brown dolls and she skimmed over the white dolls. And I was like, okay, all right. And she was like, this one is pretty. But, we always tell her that she's a pretty girl. We always have these, self affirmations for Ava, like, you're such a pretty girl. And she always says, I'm a pretty girl like Kamala, or Kamala's a pretty girl like me.
Yeah.
So we always are like, we call her sweet girl or pretty girl. And everyone tells her she's a pretty girl. So sometimes we're like, okay, I guess it's enough because we don't want her to think like there's no one else prettier than her. But I think like positive self-esteem is important. I think I struggled with a lot of things of being the only Black person in my community, or not in my community, but in like my friend group, in my, my classes at school. I struggled a lot. In ways that I didn't know until I became an adult. So like my breast came in at like in the second grade. That wasn't happening to my friends until like, I don't know, middle school. I had a butt and I had these curves and I couldn't fit into like a size 00 at Abercrombie. And like those things, I struggled with those things. But now that I'm an adult, I'm like, okay, well, that's fine because I would rather be this way than that way, right? But you don't think about that when, society is, saying the blonde hair and the blue eyes and the skinny girl is what's pretty. And the Black girl, are the dolls in the back of the shelf that you have to go searching for, right? And so I feel like that's what it felt like growing up here. And so I hope my children understand, like, we're not like pro Black people in our house, right? Because we have lots of white friends and we have lots of white family, right? But I just want my kids to always know how important they are and that they're really special. Just because of the color of their skin alone, right? And just stuff like that.
Yeah. So you were saying, that she got to pick out the doll. And do you feel like even since you started parenting with your oldest child to now with your youngest, do you feel like there has been an increase in representation and diversity within like books and toys?
I think so. I grew up in a home where my parents did their best to always make sure that my parents have lots of Black art on their wall that they've collected. And my dad he grew up at the end of segregation. So he's very into, Black history. And he's really into telling us about history. So with Marcus, I made sure that in his baby room, there were always books that represented him. So I don't think that he's ever had to struggle with that because I think that he's seen it. And I've always been conscientious of making sure that my kids see themselves. I will say from 2015 to now, even on TV, I can see the difference, right? I see commercials with Black families. And even more TV shows that are coming back. I feel like when I was growing up, there were a lot of TV shows that had Black families, and then they dwindled away, and it looks like they're coming back. One would say they're going to go away now with our new president, but I think there's been a difference, commercial-wise, TV show-wise, social media-wise. I think that the Black family was highlighted for a little while, which was nice to see. I don't know how long it will stay, but yeah.
You were talking, I want to circle back to you're talking about the conversation you had with your son and after his experience at school. And I just it's just like devastating to hear that, honestly. And it's like really like, and I can't even imagine having to be in your shoes and have that conversation with your child. Is there anything that you'd want white parents to know about like, how I think it's just important that they know that you have to have those conversations. Yeah. But is there anything else that you'd want to share about your experience of parenting in a predominantly white area?
Yeah. So I teach my kids kindness. If they were here right now and I said, what does mommy always say? They'd always say, be kind. I always say, are you being kind to your sister? Are you being kind to your brother? Is that a kind thing to do? Were you kind at school? And I think that's really important. My dad really instilled that in my brother and I. And my dad taught us, we treat the CEO like we treat the janitor. We just treat everyone exactly the same. It doesn't matter what you look like, who you are, how much money you have. It doesn't matter. You have to be kind to, the next person. So I think that if there were parents listening, you have to teach your kids kindness. It doesn't matter what they look like. You just have to teach them to be kind. They have to be nice. It's interesting. I can tell when I am the first Black person that a child has ever seen or has ever been close to, right? Because like a child will stare at you. Right. And you're like, well, what are you staring at? Like, what is there to stare at, right? But then, maybe they've never seen a Black person up close, right? And that's okay. But I think that having because, white people don't have to say, someone's not going to like you because you're white, right? Or you're not going to learn about like things in school or like slavery. It didn't happen to us, but it happened to Black people, right? But there's no difference. We're all the same. I think kindness is important. Just talking, and if your child doesn't understand, to have those conversations at home, because that's where that starts. And I think that even with that little girl that said that to my son, she had to hear that somewhere, right? So my thing is like, what kind of conversations are you having at home? Because now your child is bringing that to school, and now it's affecting my child. And that actually started my kind of helicopter mom for my kid, because now Marcus won't come home and tell me things, because I said to Marcus, I think we had like an open house, and I said, make sure you show me the little girl and her mom. And he was like, well, I don't want you to say anything to the mom. And I was like, I have to say something to the mom. I happened to be very severely pregnant, and I couldn't get to the other side of the playground fast enough. But that started, even now he'll be like, I'm not telling you because you're going to come to the school. And I'm like, yeah, I'm always going to come to the school. Because I always say that one thing you can't mess with me with is my kids and my family. Like it's just off limits for me. It's always going to be a war with me. So just don't cross. Just don't try. Just don't. So.
There's so many challenges that you're having to face in parenting that white parents don't have to deal with, and conversations that we don't have to have. And so I think that the least that we can do as people who are raising children is like have those conversations with them. And when it's appropriate, like, how do you step in? How do you help make sure everyone's being nice to your friends? And I think there's age appropriate ways to start having those conversations. There's a lot of great books and TV shows even, and, to start exposing them. And even just hearing that your experience of kids looking at you sometimes because you're the first Black person they've met. Like, I think that's really like important that we like process that as adults, that's still happening. And that's not great.
And you think about how it has to be, right? Like at one point somebody has to see something. I think 2 stories come to mind. When I was in the 3rd grade, we went to Africa for the first time, and I thought to myself, I think I remember thinking to myself, oh, I'm going to be around a lot of Black people. And we were leaving. It was the day we were leaving, and there was like an army truck came, and there were 2 white people on it. And I said, oh, they're here too? And my dad said, Camilla. And I said, well, I mean, it's been like a month. I didn't see anyone. And now here, and my dad was like, well, yes. And I was just so shocked. And then there was, where my dad worked, there was a family that adopted a baby from Africa. And my dad walked into the dining hall one time, and I think he went to sit with his colleagues, and the baby just started reaching from him. And my dad said it was just so awkward. And I said, well, did you pick the baby up? He goes, well, no. He was like, he was with his parents, and you can't do that. But like, he said the whole room was just kind of silent, because you could see what was happening, right? This baby was taken from Africa and was immersed in this different culture, right? It was surrounded around a whole bunch of white people. And so the first Black person that he saw since coming, he just gravitated towards. And I asked what happened. My dad said his parents, packed him up eventually, and they left or whatever. And he said, but I think he's doing fine. He seems well adjusted. He's happy, and he's playing, with the other, fact brats. And, but I just thought those 2 incidents in my life they're very interesting to me. I always think about them. And I always think about that little boy. I'm always like, I wonder if someone's ever going to tell him that story. Because kids, it shows like kids see things, right? And they know things, and there's comfortability within your race too. So those are really good stories. I want to shift gears a little bit to talk about BLM a little bit more. And so can you tell me a little bit more just about the work that you do with the organization and kind of what are you guys
focused on. I think this year is really chaotic, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. So I am the Black Maternal Health Coordinator for BLM New Hampshire. I am so excited to bring my love and passion for maternal health into the BLM space. I've been with BLM since the beginning, so July of 2020, right after the heels of the George Floyd incident. And so right now in maternal health, we're just kind of focusing, after our conference that we just had, we're just kind of focusing on keeping our foot on the gas with maternal health, right? So many racial disparities across the board, right, with Black women. And we just want to bring those to the forefront. And we can't make a change everywhere, but we can begin to make a change here, right? So the next couple events we have are Black Maternal Health Week, which is from April 11th to April 17th, and we're going to have a series of events, which will be posted on our social media pages.
And we'll link all of that too.
Yeah. And we're going to be doing a community baby shower in May, which is, I'm really excited about. Dover Children's Museum used to do a consignment store twice a year, and pregnant moms had like the first go at it. And they don't do it anymore, but for my first 2 kids, I went and I just got so many great stuff. So that's what I envision when I think about this community baby shower, just moms that can come in and get stuff. It doesn't matter if you're a first-time mom or a veteran mom, like those onesies, just you can't get enough of, right? And you cannot get enough of diapers or formula that is so expensive. So we have that happening in May. I'm hoping that we'll do a diaper drive in September. Yeah, and I hope eventually, I have started my doula training, so I hope that we'll be offered doula services at some point. So yeah, we have a lot of things in the works. And I'm excited to see it just kind of launch and see how we can get our name in this game too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You were talking about how you started right in 2020. And I think at that time, BLM was more widely known or became really widely known. Yeah. Are there any misconceptions about, your work that you feel like you were correcting often?
I think that a lot of people have a weird thought about BLM. So we are actually not associated with the actual Black Lives Matter Black Lives Matter organization. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the press that like Black Lives Matter was like taking money and buying houses and stuff like that. We're our own thing. So the money that we get comes from our state and it goes right back into the community. So it goes back into our community through mutual aid and through scholarships. So anything that we get, we send it back. So I think some people don't understand that and they might think that we're taking it for ourselves, but we're a nonprofit and we're just here to kind of help. And there are people that utilize us. I know that it does because we have been able to give a certain amount of mutual aid out. But I hope that other people will learn that we're here. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there anything else at a high level that you'd want to touch on about BLM and any of the work that you guys are doing in New Hampshire? I know you're focused on the maternal health side of things.
Yeah. So like right now we are in the process of doing our Black Excellence Awards, which what happens if people can nominate Black trailblazers in like the medical field, college, art, and that's really exciting. So we're doing that. We're gonna have our awards in April. We're always, fighting for social justice and equal rights across the board for people of color. We don't have a reason to be protesting,
right.
But we always have a reason to fight, systematic racism and continue to advocate for people of color. So we're continuing to do that. We are starting up our youth division again, which is really exciting. And I think the youth division is something to look out for because these kids are in it right now, right? And they're the voices of our change. So I'm really excited to see what kids come in, what they decide to do, because they're going to drive this boat, right? We can't do it forever, but it's going to be them. So, and to hear what's going on at a school level, I can't believe that I'm no longer like in the in crowd, like the kids anymore. Like somebody said to me the other day, they were like, "Oh, I'm 23." And I was like, "You're 23?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm 31. Like this is like, I'm not like in like high school anymore." But I'm like officially like the old people. I feel like I'm not in. My like 5-year-old was like telling me sayings the other day, like what Sigma means and like Riz and all this stuff. And I was like, what is this?
Right.
I had to call my dad, and my dad was like, you're not young, like you're not hip anymore.
We're not the target demo
I
anymore.
have no idea what any of these things mean anymore. He'll always say, call me Drip. And I'm like, what is that? He was like, I have cool clothes, Mom. Like, call me Drip. I'm drippy. And I'm like, oh. So so I'm excited to see what the youth division comes up with. And we also have racial equity educators, and so I'm excited to see them get back into schools whenever that allows, if that's even allowed anymore. But I think that's really needed too, and I think our hope is that we can get into schools as BLM. I know that that's different now, but we have a lot of valuable resources, and I hope that schools call upon us. I went to speak in a 7th grade classroom a couple weeks ago in Manchester, and it was just so great. And the kids, like, they had such great questions and thoughts, and you could just tell they want to be a part of these things. And the world is just so different now that like they can't be, but they just also want to be listened to. And they're just so smart and they're great. And I hope that we can get into, schools as BLM and just try to change the game there too. So
that's really cool. So do you I would love to hear a little bit more about like how people should tap into the resources that you have. Like what types of people should reach out to you or should know that you exist?
So we offer, really the requirement right now you have to be a person of color in New Hampshire. And that's really the requirement. You go to blmnh.org and there's a drop down. I think it's mutual aid. There's somewhere on there that says mutual aid, and you just apply. One can apply, so you can be referred to apply, and I think there's a turnaround for whatever, but I think it might be 2 weeks that they get back to you. There's obviously a vetting process, but they've helped like a great amount of people. We've been able to help with, childcare, medical bills, rent, electricity. If somebody wants to sign up to do, soccer for 6 weeks and the mom can't, or family can't afford it, things like that make a difference. So I think that's how I know that's how you tap in. But I think also, like, I tell people all the time, come to our events. And I heard Tanisha say at one of our last events, and bring a friend. And I think that matters. Like, bring somebody with you. And you just start learning. We're great people. I like us. And I always say we're a lot of fun. I really love this group of people. They've become a family. And it's a really great space to be in. Yeah. I think people always think that like we're only like pro-Black and like we don't want anybody else around. And that's not the case at all. Like, come as you are. Just come willing to be an ally and to fight for the same cause.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So tell us, we're learning a lot about mutual aid and like how important that seems to be in the direction that we're heading politically and with our government, and that one of the best things you can do if you only have a small amount of resources and you want to donate is to donate to mutual aid, donate to these local organizations. And that seems to align really well with what you're saying too.
100%. We always joke saying send your monies, but it's true. Like, even if you want to donate somewhere, and it doesn't have to be to BLM New Hampshire, but we would take your money. But any of these organizations that have mutual aid, I mean, it goes back to the community. It helps. I am a strong supporter of supporting anywhere you can. I didn't actually know much about mutual aid until I got into our organization, but the way that it's changed lives for people is important. And it's like, it's money that is not attached to something, right? It's just people helping people. And that is kind in itself.
That's beautiful. It's so true.
Yeah.
So our shtick podcast is called One Quick Thing. We try to give our busy listeners, our busy parents, one quick thing they can do to be more engaged in their community, to be a better participant in society. So, after this conversation, what's one quick thing that you might ask of our audience? What's one action they can take?
I think come to a BLM New Hampshire event. I think that I would tell somebody to come. I mean, we're not the only organization around here, but I think that our mission and our values are really strong. And I think that you're going to leave with more than that you came with. And that doesn't have to be materialistic things. It has to be physical things. But I think there's always so much knowledge given at our events. There's always resources that are at your hands. And so I think that's what I would tell someone to come. I think come and listen and enjoy and bring a friend and then come to the next one. I mean, we have lots of events. We have our gala coming up in October. So many things to just kind of, it's a reason to leave your home. It's a reason to leave your home and to be around Black people and good food and Black food. So that's important. So yeah.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
We might have to get some tickets to that gala.
You have to come to the gala. Somebody, I think it was Tanisha, that told me people call it the Grammys of the Seacoast. I think that's what she said. It's all about Black excellence. It's always the first weekend of October or the last weekend in September. And you come dressed to the nines. And there's a keynote and there's food and there's entertainment. And it's just time to be around Black excellence and just feel good. I mean, we use it as date night and we get dressed up and we drop our kids off and we don't think about them till the next day. So
I love that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. We had a photo booth this past year and it was top notch.
That sounds so fun. And we'll include links. You have a lot of events, especially coming up in April.
Yeah. Lots of events. Yeah, we will start rolling out that marketing within the next couple of days. Lots of events for Black Maternal Health Week. And that's the time to come to get educated on Black maternal health. I think that's really important. I think everyone needs to know that. One person has to be an advocate for their friend, even if no one else sees it. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, really where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Color Me Milla. I'm also on Facebook, Camilla Thompson. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
being
with us. This was
me.
awesome.